Welcome to the Smash Jump Podcast, your place for honest and passionate gaming conversations. We all know the massively popular and critically acclaimed franchises, right? God of War, Halo, at least back in the old days, Super Mario, names that have become synonymous with gaming. But what about games that get forgotten? What about the ones that get left behind? What about those hidden gems that fly under the radar, or those games that had more potential and more promise than players first saw at launch? Today, we here at Smash Up are going to discuss some of our favorite underrated games and why we love them. I'm Ashton Lavelle, your host and Smash Jump contributor, and with me are a few awesome people.
Hey, my name is Gabe. I am the editor-in-chief and founder of Smash Jump.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm a contributor at Smash Jump.
Hi gamers, I'm Sam Flanagan. I'm the video production manager and a contributor at Smash Jump.
Sup, gamers? We need to
Gamers.
throw that into our
Dudes.
intros.
Ashton, your intro is always so just you're so happy that I can't help but be like, every time you start, I just can't help but smile.
You got to
Makes
bring
me
the
smile,
energy every
man.
time.
Yeah.
You got to bring the
Yeah.
energy every time.
We need it.
Otherwise, why are you here? Why are you? Games are fun. You should be having fun. Unless you're
Yes.
playing Last of Us, then you just cry. Anyway,
Yes.
that
Or get angry.
some would consider that an underrated game. I'm not sure, but before we get into all of that, we got to talk about what we've been playing recently. And I'm actually going to start because I had a whole week off this past week. I had to off
Lucky.
work. I took it all off, got all the PTO. It was so nice. I had a big plan. I had a grand plan. I was like, oh, I'm going to finish my Final Fantasy 1 video for my YouTube channel. I'm going to finish Okami finally. Then I'll play Final Fantasy 14, and I'm going to do this and that and the other. None of that actually happened. None of that worked out. I just played Final Fantasy 14 the entire break, and it was the best time. I've been playing the hell out of that game. Haven't put it down. I've gotten my botanist. This is what I've been doing. You play Final Fantasy, you're like, okay, got some anime boys, got your swords, got your gun blades, you're fighting gods, you're fighting, giant eyeball monsters. Not me. See, I jump into Final Fantasy 14. What am I doing? I'm picking berries. I'm chopping down trees. I'm getting wood. I'm getting my botanist up to level 60, and it's just a grand old time. I've got NBA up on the other side of the screen. I'm just having the best time of my life. But I will say, in terms of more intense gaming, just last night, me and my best friend TJ, we just started our Honor Mode Baldur's Gate 3 run. And that is going to be quite interesting. He's never played Dark Urge before, and I'm not going to spoil anything because that's still, the big game. But I have played a good bit of Dark Urge, so I know things that are happening. He does not. So we're going to see how that works out. He's already made a few decisions that have resulted in some poor outcomes. But in terms of combat, we've actually been doing pretty good. I'm playing like a little warlock right now, and I'm gonna lean into the illithid powers because I haven't,
How far
haven't done
are
that
you?
before. So we are still very early. We just got Karlach.
Okay.
We've just been kind of running around getting everything together because it is honor mode, so we need to be ready
So
for
you
whatever's
haven't
coming
got
our way.
like
But
the bard yet.
oh no, we haven't gotten there yet. But that's gonna be a moment. He's
I'm
gonna be
excited
upset.
to hear about that.
Because
Oh,
he's a very he's a theater kid. He literally works in theater, and so like he really likes
oh, there'll
her,
be
like the
theater.
scene with her singing and everything. Yeah. You guys in the comments, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. So that's gonna be exciting. But we've actually been doing pretty good. We haven't died yet, surprisingly. So we'll have to see how that goes. But that's what I've been playing. What about you guys?
Well,
I'm gonna jump in only because mine's so
Yeah.
fast, which is Avowed, which is
fair
I'm
enough.
still playing Avowed, still good. Made some cool decisions last week that I told you guys about, and immediately afterwards, they actually had repercussions that were good, and I was like, yay! And I got an achievement, and I felt really accomplished. So that's me, and killed some people. So in the game,
Always.
Yeah, in game.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I would hope.
Yeah. So for the most part, the only thing that I played has actually been the demo of Twisted Tower, which has been it is very much a game that I'm enjoying. Even though I did
Trailer available on Smash Jump YouTube channel.
yes, well, the opening of the game of the
Oh, the
demo
opening.
and also a preview. It did write up a preview. Um, even though I did end up falling through the map once.
Let's go.
But
Happens.
Classic.
you know,
Work in
yeah,
progress. Work in
yeah.
progress.
I got startled by an enemy and backed up and then just fell through the map.
I feel like that was intended.
Yeah. You
Yeah, I
found
was
the
just like
easy way out.
I was just like,
The
Yeah.
game's just working.
okay. All right.
Dark.
Yep. But, I am excited to see how the finished product is gonna play out. I mean, it's published by 3D Realms, which is interesting to me.
Mm. Yay.
Cool.
I'm
Yeah.
excited for it, so
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing what you have to say about it, to be honest. So, yeah.
Sam, what you got?
Well, I'm really, really sorry. I don't have the notebook, because there's only
Aw.
been one game. I know, I'm so sorry. I know. I'll just leave right now. I've only got one game that we've been playing. That's Dead Rising 3. Going through it all. No, I'm not playing 4. It never happened. It never existed. But 3, I'm really struggling to get into. It feels like Dead Rising still, but it's very stylized. Like it doesn't have the same energy as the other two or off the record.
Is this
It
the Xbox One
feels,
one? The one that came out
yeah,
during that generation,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
okay.
when the Xbox One launched, it was one of the
Mm,
launch titles.
mm,
Um, I noticed that sequels have a tendency to go bigger and better, and by bigger it means bigger world, more enemies to fight, a lot more stuff to do. Sometimes that isn't always the best thing. Sometimes I do just prefer a linear setting, where it's a mall or a casino, where I could just go around and kill a bunch of zombies, which is what the first two managed to do. This one just kind of feels it does still have the elements of Dead Rising, but it's very stylized. In fact, I'll tell you what it reminds me of. When the jump from Saints Row 2 to Saints Row the Third happened, that's what it reminds me of. There's a lot
mm.
more goofy stuff. It's a lot more different mechanics. It still kind of feels the same, but it's not the same. I'm still having fun with it, and there's still some moments where, like, thank God that they still have psychopaths, because psychopaths are the best part of Dead Rising. But at the same time, everything else, the moment-to-moment gameplay, the story as well, the story I'm really struggling to get into. I don't know. I think it's a solid mid IGN 7 out of 10, probably. I don't know. But yeah, yeah, it clearly feels a lot more stylized than the other two. So I won't say I'm disappointed by it, but I can feel that this was the transition where it went from something cool and unique, and it took its time to develop the world and the characters, to just here's a bunch of shit to do. Oh wait, can I swear now, Ashton? I'm sorry, I jumped the
Go
gun a
for it. I
little
already
bit. I'm
did
sorry.
earlier. It's fine.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So
Bleep it.
here's a lot more shit to do. Just go at it, enjoy. You don't really have to worry about it. Turn off your just goblin brain, just go about and kill a bunch of zombies and then that's it. Um, I don't know how I feel about it. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. Again, I
Mm,
won't say I'm disappointed in it, but I can feel the transition. I can feel it.
yeah.
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 It's always
But
sad when games try to make a jump to try and change their regular formula, and it just doesn't work out, or it doesn't feel, or something
Yeah.
feels
yeah.
wrong.
That's what happened with Saints Row. Saints Row
Yeah.
2 is such an amazing game. Dark themes, a lot of fun gameplay, a lot of silly moments. Saints Row the Third just said, "Oh, people like dressing up as a superhero or a furry, so let's just make that mandatory
I've
and
still
give
got
you a
like
big purple dildo."
I've got
Hmm.
PTSD from the mansion. I think I was 14 when I played through that segment, and I was like, "What the
Oh, yes, yeah, I know what you
uh-huh.
mean. Where you go
Yeah.
rescue Zemos, yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep, that was disturbing and interesting. I mean, whatever floats your boat, but I was 14, I should not have been playing that game. So,
No, definitely.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, like, to be fair, I was like 12 and playing Fallout like 3 and then like a ton of other games that like in hindsight most people wouldn't actually be playing at that age.
I
yeah, I
feel like
regularly
I
got
don't know.
coffee
That's a
in
whole thing,
GTA.
right? Because like I was playing God of War 3 when I was like 14, and there's a lot in there that
I
Yeah.
feel like,
your parents always walk in at the worst scenes, and
Oh yeah,
right?
for
absolutely.
The
those of
good
you
old
who played God
sex
of War
mini
3, you know
game.
exactly which one I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
It depends on
Exactly.
what the
Story.
content is. If it's just a really, really story driven, my family were just like, oh yeah, who cares? But in GTA, I was just like, I'd what time are we at? I would go and hook up with a hooker, lady of
Hmm.
the night, whatever you want to call her, and then run her over and get my money back. You know?
Yeah, that's
I was
I
10. It's terrible.
It's interesting because
yeah.
I don't like, part of me is like, well, I mean, like, it's not like those experiences had a negative effect on me, I don't think.
hmm
But also, like, my parents just didn't know what they were doing. Like, they didn't really care. And part of me is also like, well, that was kind of irresponsible. Like,
hmm
if I had a kid, I'm more aware of that kind of stuff. And like I grew up in the era of like unfettered, unrestricted internet access. Like, my parents did not
Yeah.
do parental controls. They weren't really as big of a thing anymore. So like I had access to everything, and my disposition just kind of kept me away from the worst of it, but I could see how that freedom could really take someone that's more impressionable down a really like bad path.
Yeah.
And so I don't know,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
interesting.
glad that
But
didn't happen to us, guys.
Yes.
Look at
Yes.
us.
Yeah.
I
Which
mean,
is
Nicole,
not
you just said
alright.
earlier that you killed people, so I don't know.
Hey,
You know?
look.
in game.
I don't know.
Imagine. Oh my goodness.
Uh,
Well, if you hear something on the news, you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
who
it
it
was
is.
me.
You know
Yep.
who it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I just remember like my dad, because it was mainly games that he had that I would steal. So it was like Halo, Battlefield, Call of Duty, and then I remember that he got Dead Space. Oh, that was fun for me. I think I was 12 when I played that, so that was exciting and terrifying. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh gosh,
yeah.
I'm gonna be trying Dead Space sometime in the near future,
Never
and I'm
played
scared
it?
because I don't do horror games
I
very well. I
You
don't
never
do
played
horror
Dead
games very
Space?
well.
I think Dead Space might have been like my first game that I played on the PS3. I think.
I'm usually very anti-horror, and that's what. But
It was
like, I've
my
been
first horror.
sort of dipping my toe in there, and Dead Space for some reason, like, I don't know, it like
It's not that
draws
scary
towards
once you
me.
get used to
No.
it. Once you get
No,
used to it,
exactly.
it's just you
The
just
thing with
smashing
it
through,
is that
guys.
I like that he has a gun that slices things, and I'm like, okay, if
And
I can
stomps
defend
and stomps.
myself,
Right.
feels a little better.
I mean,
but I
like,
am still a little worried about being super scared because I'm just a crybaby wuss wuss. So like,
I mean,
That
you know
bad.
what? I realized something. I thought I was, I still feel like I am, but like the fact that I reviewed an indie horror game,
Well,
aka Finding
those are the
Frankie,
scariest.
and and then also like I watch a lot of like horror content creators, and then on top of that, previewing Twisted Tower. I realize, huh? am I, I
You're a
still
big
think
boy.
I still think I'm a crybaby, but like I guess I'm like I can handle it.
You're a crybaby who put his big boy pants on, went out there and
yeah,
defeated the
yeah,
evil.
I'm going on that journey
Yeah.
with you, Gabe. So we'll see if I end up in the same spot.
Yeah.
We'll see. But it's interesting y'all brought up Saints Row because I'm somebody who only has ever played 4, which is like weird.
No.
Huh.
When they started doing the superhero powers, because I heard it's like the best Flash game that was never made. And so I played it and I was like, yeah, okay, I could see it. It got a little boring at a certain point because like you start blowing through things. But Saints Row is such a long series now that there's a lot that you can break down with each individual game. And I think that that really applies to a lot of games nowadays, especially when it comes to whether or not they are underrated or not, right? So,
I love
yay,
your segues. I
Oh, it's
really
such
love
I
a
your
try my
segue.
best.
Yeah.
I
So
try
good.
my best.
So good.
It doesn't
So
always
good.
work, but I try my
Yeah.
best.
But it's fine.
But
I want to have like a competition one day for who can make the worst segue into the actual topic.
well,
Make a
sometimes when
list.
you say an underrated game, some people think it's the worst. So, see, there's another segue. I just did it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
You're good at this, man. You're
we
good
need
at
to
this.
have we need to have a conversation about the word underrated because
Mm.
before we hit record on this episode, we were already kind of getting into it a little bit. I asked everyone to get up to 5 games to put on their a list to talk about on this episode. Um, I as far as I can see, Gabe ended up with 3, which is
Mhm.
fine. I feel like that's enough.
Well, I mean,
I
like
just didn't want
would've-
more than 5
Compensating
because of
for
time
Gabe.
reasons.
I mean, like to be fair, Sam stole one of mine.
Oh,
Oh
see, we're
no.
gonna have some overlaps on here. We're definitely gonna have some overlap on here. And then Nicole just said, "Screw you," and put like a whole bunch more than.
I wanted to get in here and just delete
Trying to
them.
put one
I think I
extra.
deleted 2 while we were setting up. So it's like
Yeah.
I brought it back down
But
a little.
one of the games that was on there was Outer Wilds, right?
Yeah,
And
my boo.
that gets us into the conversation of what exactly we consider underrated because I feel like there's two sort of ways you can look at it. There's like the popularity version of it, in which case it's just like, is it has it been played by a lot of people, right? Is it just
Hmm.
well played? And if you say the name, a lot of people are going to know what you're talking about. Then the other part of it is like, how do people actually feel about it, right? Do people look upon it with reverence? Do people generally consider it to be actually pretty good? Or do people kind of forget about it or think it's one of the lesser of the kinds of games? And so, because that's an interesting discussion, right? I kind of land on it's kind of a mix, but because like there's a difference to me between a hidden gem and then an underrated game, right? That hidden gem is something that people haven't played a lot of because it's hidden, right? That's the whole
Hmm.
point of a hidden gem. It's a game that's been overlooked by people, but that more people should play. Underrated to me is a little bit more on the side that it could be something that hasn't been played a lot, but it's something that you believe deserves to have, let's say, a theoretical higher score than it might have on most people's minds, right? Or that it should be held with a little bit more reverence than, a lot the internet or online consensus seems to give it, right? Give it more
Hmm.
credit than it's being given right now. That's kind of where I land on it more so than popularity or, I think a game can be really, really well played or like have a lot of people that play it or have played it and still be underrated, right? So
Right.
that's kind of where I think about it. And I'm curious about what you guys think about that and how you use your consideration for what is underrated when you made your list.
Think it's a mixture of both, really. It can be either if you feel like something's either been underappreciated when it's been released, like some of my examples I put on there, they're definitely underappreciated when compared to others in their genre. Um, or alternatively, it could be a popularity contest as well. And I kind of think those two go hand in hand a little bit when you speak about underrated. Hidden Gems is, like you said, where it's hidden, not a lot of people have played it. You play it, it's great. You have a really good time. Like I can think of a number of different examples for that one. But I think underrated is a mixture between popularity and appreciation. A lot of people seem to appreciate that underrated game, but it isn't as popular as it should be. And I think that's where the term underrated comes in.
Yeah. For me, it's more like that. So I like to live in a weird niche kind of area. I like a lot of niche games, things that are my favorite TV shows are the niche ones, you know? So like I like Stargate, I like Battlestar Galactica. I'm always telling people what that is, and they're like, "Oh, is that like Star Trek?" And I'm like, "Get out." It's there's it's really difficult talking to some people about this because it's I always feel like I'm alone in my little cabin. So like Alan Wake, speaking of cabins, I would consider to be, or used to be, very niche and therefore underrated because no one was playing it. A lot of people had either heard of Alan Wake in passing, but like never had any interest or hadn't heard about it at all. And like, for example, Sam, you jumped on it after the Game Awards because that was such a just
Yep.
fantastic advertisement for it. That wouldn't have happened if Alan Wake 2 hadn't happened. And the problem was is that after Alan Wake 1, they didn't have really like the plan in place or the budget or the time to be making more Alan Wakes because the first one did, I think it did like pretty okay, but not amazing, and it was kind of getting forgotten. And then it wasn't until the other games came into Control and stuff that kind of brought it back and they made something new, and that gave them the ability to continue. But up until 2023, Alan Wake to me was an underrated niche game. The only reason it's not on my list today is because it changed because everyone started playing it. So that's how I kind of see it. I kind of see if I feel like I'm alone on the internet, and all I have is a tiny Reddit thread of people who uh also love this one thing, then I'm like, yeah. But occasionally it does sit in the middle. So I've got a few
Hmm.
on my list that definitely kind of sit in that weird middle space. So yeah.
That's why I like Reddit so much because you can just type in the weirdest stuff.
Or
And you
anything.
find loads of people also like it
Yeah.
as well. And you're like, oh, my people, I found
Yeah,
them.
I
Yeah.
Google like the weirdest things. I'm like, something's wrong with my body. Here it is. And someone on the internet has an answer. It's amazing. I love it.
Like there are Reddits for I swear there's like a Reddit for my city where I live, and I swear there's a Reddit for
Hmm.
the town as well where I
There's a
live.
Reddit for like everything.
Why not?
Everywhere, everything, honestly.
Yep.
And sometimes I feel very, very uncomfortable
So
looking through
Reddit is
that.
the underrated friend, which is good.
Yes. Yeah, I'd say yeah, speaking of underrated, yeah, I'd
Yeah.
probably say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I kind of fall in this like a combination as well. Like the score, the the score that like critics or other people give it can actually push like some people will ignore scores, others won't. And I feel like if you don't give something a try, you won't know whether or not you like it personally, and you will see that as like an underrated game because it's being an underrated game is all about being a subjective thing. Like
Mm.
a game can be underrated to you, but you ask someone else and they will be like, that's not underrated. Or, oh no, that's not what you think it is, or something like that.
Yeah.
Same goes with the popularity of it. Because yeah, a an underrated game can be popular. It just kind of is a matter of like, did it do well because it's popular?
One of
Yeah.
the core things I come back to, and again, this is everyone's opinion, so I'm not gonna crap on the person for this, but I'm never going to get over how poorly Alien Isolation did in sales. I'm still upset about it to this day. And one IGN rating, like
Ugh.
kind of it had a big impact. I know the guy who did
Mhm.
it is, I love him. He's great. He does great talks on games. I find him really interesting to listen to. But that was just his opinion, and he
Mhm.
says that his opinion didn't have that much of an impact. I kind of think it did because I used to go to IGN to
Mhm.
kind of get an overall opinion on how it was, kind of forgetting at the time, I was, how old was I at the time? Like 16. I'm kind of forgetting that this is one person's opinion and I shouldn't put it all on that, on like all my hopes and dreams on that.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, I don't know. And then it wasn't until like a year and a half, maybe 2 years later, that I finally decided to just do it and try out the game myself because it was on offer for £10. And I was like, wow, this is one of the best horror experiences I've ever had. What was going on with this guy's experience to make it so awful that the rating was that low? And also IGN, I think, had changed how they did their rating around that time, so it's just an
Mhm.
unfortunate, like, everything kind of came together to work against it. And I'm not saying it's entirely IGN's fault, stuff happens. But it sucks that one person's opinion can have such a big impact on a community.
Yeah.
That's
So
yeah, that's an
yeah.
I think
interesting point. Is that see, I don't really know. I think I don't really think about individual critic scores when I think about whether a game is like overrated, underrated, et cetera, et cetera. I definitely think I have more of a vibe based on like discourse I see online or just like from being around. Like Alien Isolation was a game that should have performed better for how revered I feel like it is. Like that one IGN review is really low, but every single person outside of that review who I've ever heard talk about that game sings its praises. And so to
Yeah.
me, I guess that kind of goes into how your environment, who you talk to, all that kind of stuff. But to me, I feel like that's a fairly rated game because everybody fucking loves it. It's like
Yeah. Well, I
I
think it
don't
took a
know
minute
anybody
for
outside that
people to.
IGN review that people
Yeah.
say don't,
I think
well,
initially it took a bit of a hit and then it kind of came back a bit. Like it just, I think
yeah.
everyone went, oh yeah, let's go
And I
find out
wasn't
for
around
ourselves.
during the time, like I wasn't paying attention to it, so
Yeah, I watched it
it might
happen
have
in
been
live
that,
action
yeah.
and it was sad. So,
I think it always just comes down to, like what do you like at the end of the day? Do you
mm,
like something like Alien Isolation, or is that not something that you connect with? Like Ashton, you're not a big horror game fan, so I wouldn't necessarily think Dead Space, Alien Isolation that you would enjoy. I'm not an RTS guy. I don't like RTS games. I think that they're slow, boring. I don't see the appeal. I know someone who loves RTS games, absolutely adores them. I don't see the appeal of it. And again,
mm,
that's my opinion. That's what I gravitate towards. A game that I think is really, that it isn't as great as what other people are saying, like BioShock, for example. I know I've spoken about it on the podcast before. I don't think BioShock is a good game. I think it's a good story. I think gameplay wise, I had a miserable experience with it. Other people will play that and think, that's great. I like it. It's down to your opinion at the end of the day. It really is. And
But
yeah.
would you say that BioShock is overrated, or would you just be like, I get it. It's fairly rated for what it is. I just don't like it. Like, can you
I'd
separate the
say
two?
the latter mostly. I get why people like it. When I played
Mm,
through that story, when I connected with the world, the twist ending, everything was great. I enjoy it. I see why people like it. There's actually a topic I kind of want to do on the podcast, which is the disconnect between liking a game for the story and liking a game as the game. Because I think that some people
Alan
do just
Wake.
like the game just specifically for the story and then forget it's a game. You have to actually play it in order to expand, in order to experience the story and continue with it.
Yeah.
And I think that some
Mhm.
people, like with BioShock, for example, if you ask people what do you like about BioShock, they'll instantly go, "Oh, the twist at the end was amazing." They won't say, "Oh, the mechanics and the gameplay was incredible and blah blah blah."
Yeah.
They'll tell you about the story, they'll tell you about the twist, they'll tell you about the characters. They
This is
won't
why
mention anything about the gameplay.
Infinite for me was better. Because I enjoyed the gameplay way more. Bioshock 1 felt really like stodgy and kind of just annoying at times, while Infinite was so focused on the story that it
Yeah.
flowed really beautifully,
Yeah,
and
they
the
worked in
skyline was
tandem
fun.
with each other. I
Yeah.
think that we were on the same wavelength. They worked in tandem with each other, whereas Bioshock's gameplay was about here and the story was about up here. And you
Yeah.
can clearly tell where more attention was. The world's probably like in between, maybe going a little bit further up. Like
Mm.
the thing is, I know that people will disagree, and that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
You have every right to disagree with it.
Yeah.
There's no problem with it
No
whatsoever.
one ever agrees that I think Infinite is better, and I think Bioshock 1 has problems. People are like, "How dare you?" And
Well,
I'm like, "Calm down."
we'll get strung up for saying that. You know what I mean? Like if we go into the
Yeah.
Bioshock Reddit, they'll burn us at the stake. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah,
For
I mean,
Mhm.
blasphemy.
I'm
Yeah.
sitting over here hearing blasphemy
Yeah.
already because I'm the dis. It's so interesting having the BioShock conversation because I think BioShock for me has the is all three of the spectrum. I think BioShock 1 is like perfectly rated. It is like it's rated exactly how I feel like it should be. BioShock 2 is underrated, and I think Infinite is overrated. And so I have the full spectrum across the whole series, but BioShock's such an interesting series that
Yeah.
has so many different reasons why people love it, and I think each game capitalizes on each one in a different way, which is
Yeah.
why you can see such radical different opinions across all of them. And so, what I want for us to do here, since we've gone through kind of what we think underrated means to us, and how we built our list, is as we go through our games here, I want you to go ahead and just describe why you feel it's overrated. What is the specific reason why you feel that the game you put on there is underrated? Is it a game that is popular but you feel like should be loved more, or is it a game that you feel like not enough people have tried, even though it is really, really great and should be experienced by more people? Go ahead and let me know. And we're gonna go ahead and start off with Nicole because you have a few extras on there. So let's go ahead
One
and
extra,
throw it
one
to
extra.
you to
Let's calm
start.
down.
Well, yeah,
Well,
no, it's very good, very
still.
good.
Now, oh gosh, which one do I start with? What's first on the list that I put for you guys? Um, okay, so
Jusant.
yeah, Jusant, which is the soundtrack's right there. So Jusant was a weird one. It is a game that I don't think people would have played unless it was, well, it was on Game Pass. So if it wasn't on Game Pass, people wouldn't have played it as much, I believe. I wouldn't have played it. That's the thing that's really kind of frustrating and why I love Game Pass so much. It's a game where I don't think enough people like play it, enough people talk about it, and it's one of my favorite games of 2023. It was like neck and neck with Lies of P and Alan Wake 2, which is just a
Wow.
bananas thing to say. It's the game's like what, 4 hours of just climbing a big rock from like, because the idea is that it's a Jusant to means the ebb and flow of the tide, so low tide. And the idea is that your character is climbing this huge, rocky, sandy stone tower thing all the way to basically the moon, with a little baby whale called a ballast. And the idea is that the planet's kind of just run out of water. Water's gone, and these baby whales are made of water, and they climb. And it's such a beautiful game with a beautiful soundtrack by Guillaume Ferran. He's incredible. I'm gonna get a Jasant tattoo because I love it so much. It's a game that like it is so beautiful and it feels very much like Journey in a way. No dialogue, no nothing. Just like occasionally you'll find some notes left behind. It's all about the atmosphere, and it's a game that I believe is fantastic and moving and beautiful. But I don't feel like enough people have played it. So that's where I sit in terms of it being underrated. So, yeah.
I don't know what Jusant is, so I've just gone on YouTube and there is a video that says, "Do not buy Jusant,"
Yeah, I saw that
all
one.
in caps.
Yeah, it hurts
Just
me.
like,
Here we
The
go.
comment section
uh,
underneath is defending it, being like, "You don't appreciate this kind of game.
yeah. So
Like, be
top
quiet."
top comment just says, "Yeah, this is a bad take." I'm like, "Yeah, fair enough."
Hmm.
That's the first thing I
The
saw.
guy was just bored, and it's like, well, it's clearly not your kind of game, so why are you pooping on it?
Oh, but don't worry,
It's
Skill Up recommends it. We're good.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
Skill Up did recommend it, which is why I played it, and then I saw that, and I was like, oh my god, yes, which is why I trust Skill Up when he says things, even if he doesn't. Avowed he was a bit critical, but I was like, oh, you're okay, bro. So yeah, yeah.
It's
But
But
interesting,
again, it's just an opinion.
Nicole, when you put your a list together, the thing that I try to, you'll see on my list, there are no indie games on here, which
mhm.
I think is a bit of a disservice to the indie scene because this is an opportunity to um,
To be fair, I
really
think I did the
highlight
same.
indie games,
Mhm.
but I think it's also like kind of I don't know, it's interesting because it's kind of easy to put an indie game on there because indie games are going to be by default played less than anything else.
I was
And I
gonna say as
wonder
well.
what
We've
made you
said
pick
this.
those over any others.
So we've said, yeah, thank you. So we've said this before about indie games and stuff. So Don't Nod made this game, so it's not technically an indie because
Oh,
it's
right.
Don't Nod.
Okay. Okay.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
so they
that.
did Life is
Educating me.
Strange and Banishes Ghost of New Eden, stuff like that. So that's the thing that was weird about it is that it feels like an indie game, but it's not actually an indie game technically. It's kind of like when Ubisoft
Okay.
did Child of Light, which feels indie.
Oh, yeah, that's
I
right.
loved
Yeah.
that game. Ubisoft, yeah, exactly. Ubisoft, do more of that. Regular Nicole
They
is mad at
won't. They
Ubisoft
won't.
segment.
No.
No, they
No,
won't.
they won't. No.
Yeah, so my thing is that I really love indie games, and I feel like indies are giving us art and trying to give us an experience, while a lot of games in the AAA scene are trying to siphon money off us. It depends on who's in charge. Some games are good, some games are bad for that, you know? And I think that indie games for me are the ones that are the most like not the most, but so deserving of our time and our money because the games are so cheap because they have to stay in line with them being indie. If they were AAA, then they could charge up the wazoo, but they can't. Yeah, and so I think that indie games are very special. But yeah, just aren't. It's technically not an indie, which is
Mhm.
why I was like, well, a little spicy. But yeah,
I'm glad you correct me on that one.
thank you.
All right, Sam, do you want to go ahead and head off to your first
Uh,
one here?
I think I should
I
probably
like
just.
your first one here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
I
I'm
think
not
I should
looking at your
probably.
list. I want to see.
I think I should probably maybe start with the first one then. Gabe, was this the one that you also wanted to put down?
Yep.
Sleeping Dogs.
Oh,
I
wow. Yes.
We need another
Good
one of
job.
them. We
Yeah.
need another one. I played that 2 years ago. It was such a good experience. Such a good experience. So refreshing from like an open world perspective, where it's typically just go there, drive here, shoot a bunch of guys. To be fair,
Right.
you do that, but you also get to fucking kung fu them in the face, and it's so fucking good. I love it.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
the story and everything. I mean, to be fair, when I started my own YouTube channel, the very first video I talked about was Sleeping Dogs. And I actually have been like rewatching all my past stuff just because I've kind of been like slipping a little bit. I want to try and get back into it. And Sleeping Dogs for me, when I rewatched my review on it, really reminded me like how good that was. And I even thought about like replaying it again from the beginning. But for me, I feel like that it's a great example of taking the open world genre and adding new things into it. You still have that familiarity where you drive, you shoot, crime happens, there's a story, whatever. There's side stuff to do as well. But there is this charm to it. There's this charm that just emanates off of it that is unlike anything that I've seen from something like that in the genre. Um, yeah, there's other great open world games which I'd probably say are better than Sleeping Dogs, like Red Dead 2, possibly maybe GTA as well. They're really good examples of open world games, especially Red Dead 2. That's just a really alive feeling world. It's amazing. But Sleeping Dogs has this charm to it, which is just so missing from the genre now. It needs to come back, and I'm really, really pissed off that a sequel was in the works and it got canned.
Yep.
I'm really, really disappointed with it.
Yeah.
And I'm really sad that not a lot of people talk about it. I bought the game for £2 and it contained all the content and it was
Do you wish
such
you
a
could
good
give them
experience.
more of your money now? That's what I
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, how can I give them more money? They deserve more from me than 2 quid.
Yeah, and there's sometimes where I play games where I'm like, wow, this is so good. Like, I'm really sorry that I spent £2. Can I give
Yeah.
you double that or triple
Yeah.
that?
Where's the tipping service? You
Can I
know?
add
Can
like
I?
two more extra zeros onto there?
Yeah.
No, I love Sleeping Dogs. There's things that obviously don't work. I had no idea like there was like a huge like star-studded cast. Like, did you guys know Emma Stone was in that game?
Huh.
No.
Yeah, she
No.
was. So there was this mechanic where like you meet these girls in the world and you get to take them on dates, and then once you go on one date, you unlock like this. You unlock like a special ability or something. So Emma Stone's in like two cutscenes, and that's it. You don't see her ever again. And when I was playing through it, I was like, is she going to come back? Because they introduced it in the story, and I was thinking she was going to be an important character. But no, you meet her, you take her on a date, that's it. So it just kind of makes me think, well, all right, why is that?
What
Okay, that was
happened?
that,
Yeah.
that was a waste. All right, fine, whatever, you know. Um, but yeah, like it has more than just Emma Stone. Like Lucy Liu's in it as well. There's this one guy from The Dark Knight. I can't remember his name. He played Falcone in Batman Begins. I can't remember his name. I'll have to look it up. But he's in it. You got like some great Asian American actors and Chinese actors as well that are in it, and it's really good. It's just a good game, and I think it takes the open world genre to a new level. And again, you can punch people in the fucking face, and you can do kung fu moves, and it's like a Bruce Lee simulator, and it's so good. It's so
Hmm.
good.
Out of the gate,
Yeah.
two very different games that we are both talking about here. I love
Yeah,
Yeah.
this.
yeah.
Yep.
You can clearly tell what we
Gabe, you
like
want
and
to
don't like.
Yeah.
Gabe, do you want to piggyback off that and talk about Sleeping Dogs a little bit as well?
Yeah. Like, so the big thing when it came to Sleeping Dogs for me was like you could look at my list, and mine are, when I say underrated, uh, basically all of them are just like, oh, they did something unique that made them stand out. And Sleeping Dogs did just that. It, generally speaking, still holds up today
Mhm.
with like, and it is sad that like we're not gonna get more of that because, well, first off, the studio that made it is closed down now, but also because I just don't think, who was it that published it? Wasn't it who published?
It was Square Enix.
Yeah, it
Was
was
it
Square
Square?
Enix. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want to assume it was Square Enix because I thought I was wrong.
Yeah, that's
Square
just
Enix,
like
yeah.
not their type of game anymore. They don't really do those type of like publishing deals anymore. It definitely felt unique, and the last time I tried to play it, which I'm probably gonna try and play it on PC since I own it both on PS4 and PC. Probably gonna try and play it on PC, but when I tried to play it on PS4 through PS5, it just crashed almost immediately.
I mean, it
So
is an older game now. I mean, no
yeah,
one's
Yeah.
maintaining it
yeah,
anymore. So, yeah.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, um, I'm gonna go ahead and jump in with my first underrated game here, and it's gonna be a quick one. It's Neo, and that's one that I know has been played well enough for anybody who is really into Soulsborne and has played a lot of Souls likes. You've probably played Neo. If you haven't yet, it's one of the biggest Souls likes out there at the moment. It's got two games in the series, and I just think Neo doesn't get as much love as it should for what it does. I think Neo's problem and all of Team Ninja's games have this same problem where whether it's Neo 1 or 2, Strangers in Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins, Wolong, whatever it is, they have the same problem of they have this amazingly complex, super detailed equipment system, level up system that's super freeing, super open, lets you build so many different kinds of builds that you can do for your character. But the game itself doesn't really force you to do that until after you've put like 50 hours into it. Because for the most part, when you're playing the game, if you're like want to make a big axe boy build, right? You just want to do a strength weapon. You can pretty much just focus in on your axe skills and then just pick up whatever the next best axe is that you pick up on like a map that you do on a mission, and you'll be fine. You'll get through the game just fine. You still have to like learn the game because it is a Souls like. It's going to be difficult. You have to like dodge roll and time everything, but you're not going to feel like you're behind equipment wise. It's not until you get to New Game Plus or New Game Plus Plus and you go into like the Abyss, which is like an endless dungeon type thing, that you really are forced to like go grind for those divine weapons. Go into the blacksmith and change the properties of your weapons to fit your build, right? And there's so many different things you can do with that. It's something that, and with the stance changing too, for most part, like if you're playing a big strength build, you can pretty much just stay in high stance, do big boy damage, not have to worry too much about it. But it's got such potential for how you can change your stances mid combo. How when you hit the key recharge button while you're changing your stances, you'll get some of your stamina back, and then you can keep comboing off or dodge out the way. There's so many different intricate things to go with that combat system and the equipment system that I think is the best in any game I've ever played. But most people who play the game see the game as just kind of a fine, good Souls-like that gets them a nice, like, normal experience, but they don't go further into that because they open up a menu, they see a bunch of different stats and a bunch of different effects, and they're like, I'm not reading that, I'm not figuring that out,
Hi,
and they
that's
don't need
me.
to.
I get
Nothing's
that.
forcing them to do that. So you're not forced to do it. If it's not necessary, you'll never engage with it. And I feel like that's kind of the thing that gets left behind, even though it's always there. And I think that's the underrated part is that people don't have that appreciation for that side of it. And that's such a big part of Neo to me. And that's such a big part of Neo to players who stick with the game and play New Game Plus or play those harder modes. And I think that just gets ignored because it doesn't really need to be used for the average player. And so that's the first underrated game that I have, and I just want people to. I just wish Neo got a little bit more appreciation for what it does. I really do think that it's the best like equipment, stat, skill, combat system I've played in any game. But the game has to also facilitate that, so I think that's why it gets left behind.
Mm.
So, that's mine. Anybody have any thoughts on? Has anybody ever here played Neo?
No,
I
but you're
have
making me
not.
want to now. I'm gonna
Nope.
go do it. I'll
Give
find
it a
a
shot.
way.
It's also just like cool because
Yeah, yeah.
the story's like whatever, but like it's all Japanese yokai. Like it goes really deep into Japanese lore and myth with like the demons and all the designs are crazy. It's really cool.
I was gonna play
I think
Wolong
it's
the other
really
day
neat.
because it was on Game Pass. I took it off again, and it's like, God damn, I'm just gonna have to buy this damn thing and play it.
I
So,
actually haven't played Wo Long. I've heard it's a little bit more Sekiro-like, so that's interesting to me. But I haven't actually played Wo Long.
parrying.
I've
Yeah,
never actually played
parrying.
a Souls game. I've never played a Souls game at all.
No.
Never.
Well, I just want to admit
That's me
something
all.
on the line of what Ashton was saying about things that people just won't bother like interacting with. As a Souls playing person in Elden Ring, parrying is not really as much of a thing as dodging out of the way of stuff. And Sekiro really brought it about. And then Lies of P, I went the whole game dodging, and then it wasn't until the very end that my friend Jeff was on the final boss, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you have to learn how to parry." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "You've not been parrying?" I'm like, I've never learned how to. I don't know how to parry in this game. I just refuse to do it. And he said, "Okay, well, you can't beat this boss if you don't know how to parry." I was like, "What?" So I spent 3 days having to relearn the whole game, like
Wait, which
going and
boss
just the final boss, the puppet.
of Elden Ring?
No, Lies of
Not
P.
Lies of P.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had to spend the whole time parrying the sucker, and like I couldn't do it. 3 days it took me to kick his ass. I genuinely was like, I'm gonna do the bad ending just to make it just end this, end my torment. So yeah, one of those.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right, Gabe, why don't you pass it to you and you can give me your first underrated game?
Hmm? Did you say me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
First.
Well,
The one
you
that the
you
only
said
one that hasn't gone yet,
first.
yeah.
Do
Yes.
it,
I
Buster.
did.
You piggybacked on Sam, so now give us your own
All
shenanigans.
right.
Yeah, your actual
Yeah.
fresh.
My actual underrated. So Mirror's Edge. Like
Mhm.
it is known, but I don't think people actually appreciate it as much as they should. Like people know about it because it looks good, but that's about it. Granted, it is its story is kind of meh. It's fine. And we don't talk about the gunplay. The gunplay doesn't exist. Uh
No.
but like the aesthetic of the world, the fact that it actually gives a reason why there's like guide paths for you. You don't have to follow those guide paths. the fact that it's made by Dice of all studios, kind of showing versatility for them, and just the general like concern that like a studio now has compared to back in what was it, like 2009, 2008, when Mirror's Edge released, where they were willing to actually try different things as opposed to keep to the same things that they know will work for them. Like Mirror's Edge to me is a game that has a charm solely because it is different and it is a fun time, because in the end, like they kind of didn't do it justice when they did try to reboot it with Catalyst, because it just worked best as a linear experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't play the other one. I played the first one though.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I remember I mainly did it just because I heard that the gameplay, there was nothing else like it at the time. And
Yeah.
that's what made me want to go in and do
Yeah.
it. But I know that it wasn't hugely popular because a lot of people I know weren't playing it. They were going for, GTA, Call of Duty,
Yeah.
Halo. So it's quite sad to see that it kind of flew under the radar. People know what it is, they just won't play it.
Yeah.
And
Can you
that's what
Yeah.
can
sucked.
you Gabe, can you describe it a little bit more for me? Because my only perception of Mirror's Edge is parkour.
Yeah.
I don't really understand like what
Parkour.
like what is
Yeah.
the when you're parkouring, are you just jumping in one spot? Like
That's
what's
pretty
my
much it.
goal? Is it like to get the end of a room or like what's going on? What's stopping
So
me?
so with Mirror's Edge, its main like gimmick, as I put it in like a video that I plan on doing one day or something, is it's a game that is about doing something that people don't traditionally see as engaging gameplay, aka movement. Like I can't think of any game that still does like a parkour system like it does. What it really is just you get from point A to point B. You can do it in the way that the game kind of instructs you to, or you could do it in a completely different way because there's different paths that you can take. So it is a semi-linear parkour experience, and that's really the biggest part about the game. Like I said, its story is just fine. You basically just trying to clear your sister's name, and yeah, like there's not much else besides that. There are enemies sometimes, and sometimes the gunplay, but uh again, we don't talk about that.
I
Are you
wasn't a
like trying
fan.
to avoid them? Are you like
When they
trying to
brought
like
in
jump over
Yes.
them,
I
like
was not having it.
stealthing past them, or like what's going on with that?
Well, usually you can try and stealth past enemies. However, sometimes you actually have to fight them, in that you could either do that through like actually not using a gun, or there are instances where you're forced to use a gun and it just slows the game down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't like when I couldn't go fast as fuck boy. Because
Exactly.
I had to slow down and pew pew so that I wouldn't die. It's like, oh great. It
Yeah.
sucked. Yeah.
Beautiful.
But
Beautiful.
the rest of it was great, and it's a beautiful
Mhm.
game.
Yep.
So sounds good too. It
Yes.
sounded amazing.
It did.
That is an interesting point there. It's like Dice has a beautiful engine with Frostbite, and they know how to make really good sounding games. We see that with Battlefield all the time. Let them spread their wings a little bit and try something different. You know, they
Yeah.
clearly can do
Yeah.
it. Um,
Yeah.
but
Spread
something
their
else
legs,
that's a little
parkour more.
different. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Stretch your legs out a little bit. Don't break it though.
Yeah.
Nicole, what is your next game?
Oh gosh, goodness gracious. Well, my next one is Road 96. So this is an indie. We can fully admit this is an indie. This did come out on Game Pass as well. No longer on there. Might have come back. I don't think it did though. I'm not sure. And this game blew my mind. I just decided to load it up just because it had an interesting cover and it seemed kind of cute. Because I didn't watch the whole trailer. It seemed nice initially. So this is a game that again flew under the radar. I think that a lot of people I think a lot of people would really like it if they actually wanted to commit to it. There's a lot of elements of the game that aren't advertised properly in like the trailer, and a lot of people won't really realize. They'll think it's some sort of just like an indie walking sim type situation, and to a degree there is that, but there is some management of stuff. So you are like in the mid to late 90s, in a authoritarian dictatorship, and the government has got an election. It's all going pretty south, and a bunch of teenagers are trying to escape to the border, cross the border in order to escape the country because everything is bad. And so you take on the role of different random teenagers around the country trying to get out of this fictional country. And the really great thing about it that I don't feel like any other game has ever done so well is I wouldn't call it RPG stuff like mechanics, but there's a level of role playing to it, but I haven't seen it done to the extreme and the fear that I had. So because you're a teenager, you're vulnerable. There are two ways that your journey to the border can be stopped, and that is via being killed or arrested by the police. You only have some spare change that you've managed to scrounge up, and you've got to try and make do, whether that's on your hitchhiking journey. You help out like a reporter lady who, I hate her, or you go to like a bar and you bartend for a bit, stuff like that. And you've got to try and keep your health up. You've got to make sure you have enough supplies, food and drink in order to reach the border, otherwise you die. And the worst thing was that you can hitchhike and get rides with people, but at some point during the game there's a guy who's going around killing teenagers, who
Oh,
like
good.
had
They're
some
doing some
sort
serial killer shit.
yeah, he had some trauma. And so I was like, I am not getting in this fake I'm going to say the word fake taxi, but it's not that kind, if anybody knows what I'm saying.
Don't get in the white
This
van.
game sounds
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, you're kind of
so-
selling me on it right now.
don't get into the fake cab that's going around, because there is a fake one. There are some real ones and fake ones. And I remember I in my bid to try and avoid getting got by this guy, I was like, I'm gonna like do all these things, gonna resupply, I'm gonna walk to my location, I'll be fine. And then at some point during it, I didn't realize I'd mismanaged my health, and then I ended up passing out on the road due to exhaustion. And then I woke up in the guy's car, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And then I had to try to convince him not to kill me, and it was not going well. And it was actually the most terrifying, like 20 minutes in that car. I've never been, and as a young woman, it is terrifying being in that position in the game. It felt so true to so many things about the game, echo reality, whether it's like the current presidential election and what's going on in America with that, just the state of politics around the world is chaos somewhere. And the fear and isolation and the struggles that teenagers are dealing with, like trying to find themselves in the world at the moment, it's quite difficult. And so yeah, I felt the game was really, really powerful and had a lot of important sentiments, and there's a lot of choosing that you can do. And I did have one of my characters die at one point. And there was another moment where every time you cross the border, you have to cross in different ways, and you may or may not make it. And I had to pick between me or another teenager, and that was a dark moment. So it's very twisted. Road 96 is great. I think they made another game that kind of ties into it, but it's not really. I think they just did it as a kind of hoping to do a bit of a cash grab on it. I wasn't entirely sure what they were doing, but I mean, whatever money they need, take it from me. So yeah. That's
I just remember that game for when you're in the back of the guy's car and he asks if you like dinosaurs, and he says, "Oh, don't worry, I won't get mad." And then when you say you don't like dinosaurs, he turns around and he just explodes at you. I don't know if that's the same game, but I'm pretty sure it is. It might be that, or it might
It
be
might
like
have
the
been.
expansion. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
yeah.
You-
It's a really spooky game. At one point, I was bartending as a different teenager, and he came in, and I was like, "Nah, mate, I know who you are. You get out of here right now. You stay away
I've seen
from me."
your face around town. I know who you are.
Awful. So yeah, it's great, and it really captures the fear well. So I definitely recommend it to people, and I think it's underrated because it's one of those indies that just I wish that they had like Balatro success, but they don't. So
Yep, that one just got on my wish list. So good job selling that
Yep,
game.
same here. Thank you.
Definitely
Thank
just went
you.
on my wish
Wow.
list.
Love that.
Wish list.
Yay.
Sam, go ahead and
Hi.
drop me your second underrated game.
Do I have to go down a list? Because there is one I want to
You
talk
can do
about.
whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Don't give me that freedom. So I want to talk
Like
about
my favorite underrated game is Marvel Spider-Man 1.
and more people should play it. My next one Star Wars Battlefront 2, and by this one I mean the 2017 version with all those loot
Oh,
boxes and everything. Now, when this game first came out, I bought it. I hated it. I returned it because it just wasn't what I was expecting, and I just thought it was yeah, it's not good. Now, after they have completely updated the game and they've left it as it is a very, very, very good follow-up to the previous Battlefront games. Even more so than the classic collection that came out. We're not going to talk about that one. But the thing is about Battlefront 2 is, yes, it isn't as good as as the old games. A lot of modern games aren't. I don't know if you just heard that car go past. That was really loud. I don't know if that picks up on the audio or
I had the
whatever.
same thing earlier. Don't worry.
Yeah, yeah. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Star Wars. So, yeah, Star Wars Battlefront 2, the 2017 one. Yes, the campaign is crap. I'm not gonna lie, the campaign's awful. Don't even bother with the campaign. The multiplayer is where it's at. There is a lot of good stuff in the multiplayer. There are so many different worlds. They have every single one of the trilogies there, every single one of them. There's a bunch of different heroes you can play as well. I found myself putting about 90 hours into the multiplayer for it. And I just think that from where it was at the beginning to where it is now, it's a completely different experience. And I'm very sad that a lot of people are playing it less and less every day. There are a few flaws with it, I'll be honest with you, and I don't think we're going to get a Battlefront 3 anytime soon, if I'm honest with you. But for what DICE had and from what EA was forcing onto them, they've managed to turn it around quite a bit. I don't condone that in any way. I flat out hate it when game companies do that. Release your game as it is and make sure it's working on time, make sure it's working when people playing it. But if you compare Battlefront 2 to when it released to where it is now, it's a completely different game. There's so much content. The gunplay is extremely fun as well. It's so beautiful. That speaking of Dice and Frostbite engine on that game specifically, really, really well done. Hoth especially, if you look at the snow on Hoth, it glistens like actual snow does. I've never seen that before. It's beautiful. It really is. It's a good game. I really do hope that we get a Battlefront 3. I just hope that if we do get it, it is like how Battlefront 2 is now compared to what it was when it released. Um, but one can hope. And I hope I've sold it right. There's a reason why I put 90 hours into it. It's just a really fun game. It's just really, really fun.
What platform are you playing
Um,
it on?
PS4,
It's not
PS4 or
cross-platform, is it?
PS5. No, no, I don't think so.
Ugh, can't play
think
with you
so.
then. Boo.
But it's just good. It's just really, really good. It definitely gives like that galactic scale feeling that the original Battlefront 3 was. Like I don't know if you guys ever saw that, like the original Battlefront 3 when it was like 95% complete. You
Yep.
can go from planet to space and it's
You can
just
play it
seamless.
now.
Can you? Oh,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
there's
look
like a
for that.
huge fan project that has it like functionally working and has some small like lobbies and stuff. It's pretty impressive that they were able to
Mhm.
like because it was like you said, it was pretty much almost done.
Yeah.
There's still some bugs and hangs up here and there because it never got finished up, but like it's playable.
Yeah. Yeah, and if Battlefront 3, if we ever do get it, if it's like that, that's the next evolution that we can go for. But the thing is I don't think anything like that's going to happen because Battlefront 2 caused a lot of controversy for the better, I'll be honest. So thank God it happened.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't think EA would want to maybe follow up on that with another entry.
Bit of a risk.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit of a
Battlefront 2
risk.
was was a story similar to like No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk, but never actually really came back in full force. You know, like it it like it's regarded now as like a good game now, whereas before with all the loot box controversy and stuff, it definitely wasn't. But after all its fixes, it's a really great representation of Star Wars. I'm
Yeah.
piggybacking off of you, Sam, because I concur 100%. As a huge Star Wars fan myself, like the way even just like the sounds, man, like the sounds are
Oh, yeah.
perfect in that game, and like it really that's probably the most immersed I've ever been in a Star Wars game to make me actually feel like I'm in Star Wars. But I don't know that it like I think the problem was it didn't the damage was done and it was so heavy and it was so damaging that when it finally was fixed, I think people just moved on to the next multiplayer thing because that
Yeah.
audience is very
Yeah.
fickle. You know, that audience just
Yeah,
moves on. So
yeah.
by the time it was what it is now, it didn't have a chance, which felt really bad.
Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's like the best multiplayer experience that you can get right now. I think there are far better multiplayer FPS games out there. But for what it has right now compared to what it had at the beginning, it's a completely different game. It really is.
Uh, I
Like
think no, no, sorry, finish.
I was just gonna say, like, there's been times where I've been in like these fights and there's about 10 other droids around me,
Yeah.
and we're just there, just like slowly moving up towards the enemy base, and that's just really fun to me. The constant like laser firing that you can see like flying above your heads and to the
Hmm.
side of you, then the three droids next to you all dying. You're just like, oh my God! Like it's just it gives like that proper like war feeling
And
that a
when
Star Wars game
you're like a
should.
soldier and somebody's been doing really good, so they turn into like Anakin or something, and they
Yeah.
rush in and they cut down a whole. It's like, bro, I am in the
Yeah.
show right now. Like I am
And then
in the
you chase
movies. I
after
am in
them and
Clone Wars.
everything. Yeah,
It's so cool, man. It's so good.
so good.
I just got like Ewok attack PTSD to like that there's that game mode. I played with my
Yeah.
friends. We hid in a cave. It was the most terrifying thing. But no, what I was going to say was that like, you know, you're saying that it's not like the best definitive multiplayer experience. But I mean, what I'm hearing is that it's underrated in the fact that essentially, because this game wasn't doing great and didn't do well, and it kind of essentially kind of failed, and people have moved on, even though it got better and it's gotten to the point now where it's really good. Because even I dropped off and haven't come back since, but you're making me want to now. It's
I'm making
like
myself one too,
you're
if I'm honest with you.
yeah. The thing is, it's like you want it to be successful because that means we get more chances of more good Battlefront games.
Yeah.
With this big going under and not being worked on anymore, and it being now underrated means that our chances of getting another one are really slim. So it's
Hmm.
just yeah, I completely get
The
why
thing
you
is, the
got
thing
that.
is, Dice wanted to, because there were files of Ahsoka Tano, Padme. They were bringing more heroes
Hmm.
into it, but EA was actually the one that ended up pulling the plug at
Classic.
the end of it.
Yeah.
Like, can you
Because
imagine nowadays if you like did a Battlefront 3 and you were like, okay, well, we're gonna put Ahsoka in there, we're gonna put the Mandalorian in there, we're gonna put like I don't
Grogu.
know, would you put Baby
Baby,
Yoda in
yeah,
there? I
Baby
don't know.
Yoda,
Maybe don't shoot Baby Yoda. I
do
don't
it.
want to shoot Baby Yoda.
No, he'll be with the Mandalorian, and then when the Mandalorian dies, Baby Yoda just like shuts off and then yeets away. Done.
Yeah, you could
I'd
do
be up for
different
that.
costumes for like Obi-Wan to like use the show version now, or you could have like the acolyte characters in there. Like you could do so many different things. Like
Yeah.
it'd be so great. But
That's
yeah,
what
I
mods are
think
for.
yeah,
That's what mods are
that is
for.
Yeah.
what modders are for. Exactly right. Exactly right. I want to go ahead and throw it back to Gabe really quick. Haven't heard from you in a little while, and I'm curious what this second game or third game on your list is because
Hmm.
I don't think I've heard too much about them.
Yeah, so
I have.
oh
Go
good.
nuts.
Yeah, so Stuntman is actually a very again, my games are largely games that did something unique. Stuntman, I've never played a game like Stuntman, like outside of the Stuntman like IP, because there's two games. Um, it was a PS2 game. The original Stuntman was a
Okay.
PS2 era game. And basically, you literally did what it sounds like. You a stuntman, you follow directions of the director, and you basically do one take of doing a bunch of stunts, whether that is overtaking cars, smashing through boxes, doing jumps, that type of stuff. And yeah, it was a very interesting game solely for that reason of just like I've never had seen a game that is like it. I still haven't seen a game that is like it. And granted, part of that is that it just didn't do well. Like granted, the criticisms that it did get from the people that did play it are valid, which largely boil down to it was a very difficult game. Um, because there was like a lot of time constriction, there was a lot of like difficult to pull off moves that you had to do in sequence, but it was a very interesting game to get into because it was just, huh, this is unique because I don't think I've played a game where you are a stunt person and it being an actual like semi understandable representation of it. Like, yeah, you have like games that are wacky in that you are a stunt person, but this one wasn't made to be crazy. It was made to be a representation um of being a stunt person in the movie industry. And
A
moreover,
stuntman simulator.
yep, exactly. It is a stuntman simulator. And what's actually nice about it too is that it actually has like a trailer of the whatever movie you're working
Oh,
on
that's
in
cool.
that, and it uses clips of your performance in like spliced in with uh cutscenes for it. It's just kind of a fun time, just with a unique twist.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like exactly like a PS2 era game that I would have played a lot as a kid if I ever got it. I just never heard
Yeah.
of it
Yeah.
before.
You could also
Uh,
build a track too. Like you could build
that's cool.
a an area where you could just drive around and smash through other cars and stuff like that too.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so I hadn't played it either, but I think Gabe, you mentioned it before to us or me at some
Yeah.
point. So I went and looked and watched some people play it just for funsies,
Yeah.
and I wish I was around in that era because it's really fun. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I miss
It's
it. I miss
crazy.
those kinds of games.
Yeah.
I'm looking at some of the gameplay now on YouTube, and it does look very difficult. I'm not gonna lie.
Hmm.
This
It
this is one
is.
this is one YouTube short. This guy raging that he's not landing in the box correctly.
Yeah.
That's part of the difficulty. Just get in there.
Yeah, cool.
It's like Dark Souls. Just keep going until you get it.
Just
Yeah,
keep doing
no.
it.
Unfortunately, neither of the two games that released did well. Um, so it's unlikely that it's going to have another entry. It was so it was like developed by, I believe it was a subsidiary of Infogrames, which
Okay.
yeah, which at that time, which granted they're back now, but it was the second game was made, I believe, by THQ Nordic.
Yeah.
Um, or THQ at the time. I think it was just THQ at the time. I could be wrong about the developer. I just know that in the end, THQ Nordic ended up with the rights, and they basically flat out said, "Yeah, we're not making any more of this."
Sucks.
Hmm.
Sucks
Yep.
when you get like they get the rights. They don't want anybody else to have them, but they're just not going to do anything with it. That
Yeah.
sucks. It's
I've got
always
a game on my
unfortunate.
list that's in that vein.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same here.
we
Uh,
all do.
I don't, but my next game definitely has a lot of stuff coming its way, but it's a as big of a franchise as it is, it's still kind of underplayed, and it's Witcher 2,
Nah.
Assassins of Kings. Um, Witcher, obviously Witcher 3 is massive, so I'm not going to say that it is the least played game ever. But, you know, a lot of Witcher's popularity came after Witcher 3. Like Witcher 1 and 2 were successful enough, but Witcher 3 was the explosion, right? It's kind of the
Mhm.
Elden Ring, Dark Souls thing, where Dark Souls was clearly successful enough. And I wouldn't call it like underplayed by any means, but Elden Ring blew it the fuck up, right? And
Yeah.
Witcher is the same way. Witcher 2 is, I think, the biggest problem with Witcher 3 to me is the combat. And I think a lot of people feel the same way, where it feels like it gets repetitive, it feels like it's a little too easy. And I never, for me, even though I played on the highest difficulty, I never really felt like a Witcher. I kind of just felt like I was playing a Souls game that wasn't as hard. And Witcher 2, on contrast, is the complete opposite. It's not an open world, so there's a lot less of the world to like see and explore. It's a lot more linear, but it in that they really focus zero down on the combat and on the mechanics behind it, the alchemy, the oils for your blades, all of that kind of stuff, and made me feel a lot more like a Witcher than Witcher 3, where Witcher 3, for the most part, you could go into any sort of monster fight and you'll probably be fine. Like you might want to use an oil, but you'll probably be okay. But in Witcher 2, you've got to use that stuff. Because if you're not putting the right oils on your weapons, if you're not drinking the right potions for the next fight you're gonna go up against, you probably will die. And I think that is the key there is that it's the only one of the three games that made me feel like a true Witcher. And I think more people should have played it. The story's still pretty good. It's not on the level of Witcher 3, but I still think it's pretty good. Still got those same RPG, making your choices, doing all that fun stuff. But it's I think not as many people have played it who have played Witcher 3. And if your main problem with Witcher 3 was combat, Witcher 2 is right there, and I think it's worth your time to look at. So that'd be my pick. It also had that weird thing where it was like Xbox 360 only. So like that cut off the PlayStation fans from it, and so I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Back in the day when
A win
Xbox
for
was worth
Xbox.
something.
You get one win.
Yep.
One
A
win.
single
One
win.
win, one win.
Ugh.
So that's my next pick. And
I have a question for you, just on the back of that. Would you also class The Witcher 1 as underrated? Because I don't see a lot of people talking about that one.
That was
Well, The
PC
Witcher
only,
1 I
wasn't
think
it?
is just straight up bad. So I'm not the right person to talk. I don't like it. I don't think it's very good.
Fair enough.
I don't think it's. I'm very excited for the remake that they're in the works for because
Yeah,
I
me
think the
too.
story is insane. I think it's probably the best story of all three of the games. But it's so jank and so like
Hmm.
it just does not work for me. All the characters are so butt ugly.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good. I
I've
think it's a bad game.
I've like seen gameplay of it of Witcher 1, and it's just like, okay. Um,
Like I
why
know
is
old
he
game is old, but
why
like
why is he swinging the sword above his head?
I don't mind that it
He does a
it's
little
weird because
bit,
that is
but
like the
it's a
stance
bit.
change. But like
Yeah.
he doesn't always have to do that, but like I don't know. It's just way too I don't know. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
It's
Well, it's a
old but in
waste
a
of
bad
time.
way and
Yeah.
it's like it has those weird little like sex collectible cards where if you have sex with a woman, you get like an art card for her. So it's like you're playing
Nice.
Pokemon and like going to get all the women and it's really
You
weird.
gotta fuck them all.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly
Dear,
what
oh
it is. And it's
dear.
like
Oh no.
Oh my.
it's got problems. It's got
As a
problems.
woman, oh dear. I mean, at the beginning of this, I was saying how, like, in GTA, I'd like sleep with a woman and then run her over. So, like, I'm not any better. I was a kid, I didn't know any better. But, like, now as an adult, I'm like, oh, dicey.
I'm gonna be right back. I'm just gonna install The Witcher 1 real quick. Just bear with me 1 second.
Just go ahead and check it out. Oh man.
Uh,
So for
That sounds
the
like a
next
thing.
couple ones that we do here for time's sake,
Yeah.
let's say I still want you guys to be able to talk about all the things that you want to talk
Mhm.
about, but let's say go ahead and blitz through two of them. Try to do two back to back in succinct fashion, and then save one that we'll do a deeper dive in, like we have with the other ones so far. Just so that, so like, pick your favorite one that you want to really talk about, and then this round here, starting with Nicole, we'll just blitz through two of them so that
I'll
you can
blitz. I
still
got one really
get
easy
through it, and then
blitz.
Gabe will just save yours for the end, so you only have
Yeah.
one left, or you can
Okay.
piggyback off somebody.
So the Blitz is Spiritfarer. This came out on Game Pass when it first released. The way that it's described is an indie management sim about death. The way that Zero Punctuation at the time, he's simply something ramblematic, something is his new thing.
Yeah.
Semi-ramblematic or something, is that it?
Yep.
He
Semi. Yeah.
yeah, love him. So the way he described it is you take your family members out back and shoot them in the back of the head. Very
Wow.
yeah, very, very
Oh.
dark. So yeah, it's a really cute game where you essentially get there and it's like, oh yeah,
What?
I'm gonna say it's a really
No,
cute
hold
game
on,
where you
hold on.
take
It's
family
cute.
members.
It's a
There's a
cute
journey here.
game.
There's a journey here.
It's a cute game. You get to the River Styx, right? And Charon's like, oh yeah, peace out. I'm leaving. You can start ferrying people across the River Styx. You go find your family members on all these islands in this weird place. It's weird. I still don't fully comprehend everything, but it's amazing. And you go find family members, and then they're just like, oh yeah, I'm really sad. Like, oh yeah, I'm also like dead. So I need to like wrap up this part of my life before you can send me on to the afterlife. And there's like some people are like have got like addiction issues. Some of the other family members are just sad and lonely. Other family members have like cheated on each other. So there's like beef going on. So you've got to like cook them food, go discover lands, make your big boat as big as possible to ferry all your family members across the River Styx. It's a very weird game, but it's literally a management sim where you have to look after your family before you take them out back and shoot them. So yeah, but it's really cute. But it's really cute, and the music's great. And I did put it on that list that I did of like video game soundtracks that are really like nice, and Spiritfarer's on there. It's really using fairy spirits, so simple.
So whimsical as I shoot my brother in the back of the head. Oh,
well, you
wow.
you hug them to death. You hug them and they
You
die.
hug the. What the hell? What?
It's really good. So next, somebody play it. There's the thing. It's on Game Pass again. The Forgotten City. Moving on. The Forgotten City is my other one. Okay, so Forgotten City was a Skyrim mod. It was a really good mod from 2015. Where it was like this whole city with these people, and none of them could commit any like sins, or everyone in the city would die. And someone modded this, can't remember their name now, but they modded it back in the day. And in like 2021 or something, they were like, here's the full game, The Forgotten City, which is set in like ancient Rome. And you're like, you arrive at this place and it's really weird, and it's like a time looping game. So you get there at the beginning of every day, and everyone's like, oh, where the hell do you come from? You run around, and someone somewhere is going to commit some sort of sin that's going to break the golden rule. And if you break the golden rule, all hell breaks loose and the city's destroyed. And when that happens, the day resets. And no matter what happens, at some point it's going to reset. The good thing is you can keep your resources. So sometimes I'd go in and just start robbing everyone, break the golden rule, run straight to the time portal, and just come straight back and be like, I'm rich, don't need any of the stuff I needed 5 minutes ago, new loop. Really good. There's a lot of waiting for things to happen, because it's a whole day of people doing different things. There's a guy where like there's a secret underground tunnel you got to swim in. So there's a guy who I'm like, just hurry up and unalive yourself, because he just yeets himself off a thing. And when he does that, there ends up being a big hole in the ground that you can dive into and then have a good time. Sadly he's dead, but I mean, I needed the hole in the ground to get to where I was going to, and I couldn't kill him because that's breaking the golden rule. So
I'm seeing a theme here.
Killing, death, and murder.
I didn't do it. I waited for him to do it. I discovered his body and went, oh, every day at some point you do that. So this game's wild. It's great. I love it. Time loop is fun, but also it gets so insanely meta at one point that my brain blew up. I couldn't believe the amount of crazy twists and turns that were occurring. The game is actually so deep. It's not like 12 minutes or something that like did my head in from just no progress in those 2 rooms, but like this game is so big, so vast, there's so much going on. So Forgotten City, it's a mod that got turned into a full game. It's excellent. 10 out of 10. Next.
I'll briefly
Underrated.
piggyback off that, because I did finish that game earlier this year. I mentioned it on the
Amazing.
podcast once before.
Yeah.
Super good. Also love that they save your progress whenever you do accomplish something in the form of the first guy you meet there. And you're just like, by the end, when you're doing like your last run, you're like, okay, dude, hey, look, go do this, go do this, go do this, go do this, go do this. And he's like, okay, sure. Yeah, dude. All right, cool.
You can tell him it's a video game.
Goes and does
you could be
everything
like,
for you.
This is a video game. I need you to go do these things. And he goes,
and he's
what?
like, sure,
okay.
dude. All right, I got you. And then he just leaves and does.
I've
so
never
good.
experienced a time loop game like that. Yeah.
And the way that story wraps up is really, really cool. And
yeah.
After getting like, it's a game that has multiple endings, but you really got to get all of them, because like you can't finish, like the game's finished once you get that last ending. Like it's not like, you got to do it. So I piggyback off that. It's great. You guys should definitely try it.
It's cheap too. Definitely do it.
It is cheap.
Yeah.
Next.
Well, mine isn't anywhere near like that. I don't really know if I can talk.
I'm sure you can kill things in your games.
Well, definitely, yeah. I'll talk about one briefly, just because I mentioned it last time. I still want a new Titanfall game, and I still think Titanfall 2 is very underrated. I think it's got a great campaign. It's got a lot of great world building. It's just really, really sucks that it got slapped right bang in between COD and Battlefield. That's a stupid move that I still don't understand.
Yeah.
So a new Titanfall game would be really, really good. Yeah, we got Apex. Apex isn't the same.
There's no mechs, man.
Nope. And if it's missing the mechs, and I want the mechs, I want to slam people with the mechs.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and so new Titanfall game, please, thank you. The next one is Sunset Overdrive. I think we mentioned it on the last one as well.
Yeah.
It's very underrated. Insomniac did a really good job with that one. It's very out there, and it's very strange how an energy drink can turn people into weird orange fleshy monsters, but it's cool, man. The grinding mechanic as
people.
well. Exactly.
Yeah.
Energy drink kills. But yeah, no, I think the Sunset Overdrive, I'm really, really annoyed that it hasn't come onto PlayStation. It's a Dead Rising 3 thing. You have to. It's Xbox exclusive. It's not going to change anytime soon. But I think it's definitely one of Insomniac's better titles. and it's one that definitely does need a lot of attention. It kind of does something similar, like with what Sleeping Dogs did with the open world genre, with the grinding on the rails. That's something that's very different, very unique, and it also has a colorful art style as well, giving the subject matter of people turned into monsters. It's just fun. It's just fun. There's a lot of weird. Didn't they have? Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, because it's been a while since I played it. But didn't they have a gun where it fired like vinyl records out? I'm sure it might have done or something
I
like
feel like
that.
it did. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like
That
it
Probably.
that
did.
that's the kind of
Probably.
stuff that I like. Where it's just out there stuff. But yeah, Sunset Overdrive. I don't think that's ever going to get a sequel.
No,
It's just
it's
one
been
of
a long
those
time.
things where it's a very standalone experience. I don't really know who owns the rights to it, whether it's Microsoft or Insomniac or whoever.
I
But yeah.
pretty sure it's Insomniac
Okay.
retain those rights,
Right,
but
fair enough.
yeah.
Sony probably doesn't see a lot of potential for
Hmm.
sales
No,
in it at this
Yeah.
no.
point.
I
Yeah,
think it
exactly.
underperformed as well.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that explains it. Yeah, so that's probably
Unfortunate.
why we're never going to get it.
Which is why
Yeah.
what makes it underrated. A lot of ours is just either underperformed or it's just not loud enough out
Or
there in the
batshit insane.
grand scheme.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like it's fair because Insomniac, what do you think Insomniac? You think Spider-Man and you think Ratchet and Clank. Sunset Overdrive gets kind of overlooked in terms
Yeah.
of all that, so
Well,
I feel like that's
yeah.
super fair.
But
Maybe
it's
they make
also
could make a fun
it's
amalgamation.
it's another game where like it kind of shows versatility though. Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh
look at
yeah.
the games that Insomniac made. They made Spider-Man, and then they made Ratchet and Clank, and then whatever the fuck this is.
Yeah.
It's like got everything. It's got like the rail grinding from Ratchet. It's got the weird
Yeah.
guns from Ratchet.
Yep.
It's got amazing movement that they would, I feel like probably build on for Spider-Man later. Like it's really
Yeah.
cool. It's really cool.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you can see the building
Yeah.
blocks of how they got to where they are now, which is really
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
definitely.
Absolutely. So I'll go ahead and blitz through my two. I'll go ahead and start with Okami because I've spoken about it enough on here. I still need to finish it, and that's why it still gets brought up. But
Hmm.
amazing, beautiful game. Very much a Zelda game. Awesome humor, good story. It's a little long, so get ready for that. It's like 30 hours, which for a Zelda game, I feel like it's pretty long.
Wow.
But it's incredible. It's beautiful. The music is some of the best that I've ever heard in video games ever, and it's gonna get a sequel soon. So why not go ahead and jump into it and play it right now? And then
Hmm.
Transformers, the Cybertron
Yeah.
series. Um,
What?
those
Explain, I
are
don't understand.
incredible. So
Are
there's two
they?
games in the series. There's War for Cybertron, and then there's Fall of Cybertron. They are sequels of each other, and essentially
Right.
they all take place on Cybertron, like before the Transformers come to Earth. And they're third-person action shooters, where it's so brilliant the way that they did it because it is like there's a Autobot campaign, a Decepticon their name Decepticon campaign, and you're able to transform mid combat
At
into
will.
your like vehicle, and it's incredible because you can be running through a room, shooting at somebody, your gun runs out of ammo, they're charging at you or shooting at you, so then you then convert into like your car form, you slide out the way, you go towards them, and then you just ram them in the face. And it's hilarious and it's awesome and it's super fun. It's super stylish. It's super like high paced, high octane action. And it's just fun. Like it's one of those games that it's like if Gears was on crack, is kind of how I would describe it. It's like Gears of War on crack, and if you could turn into a car. They're great. If you have any interest in Transformers, or like you like Transformers, or even just like the concept of being able to ram people with a car, but you are the car, and then you can come out and then have a gun like immediately, and like it's super cool. There was only the two games. I don't think they performed very well sales wise. They did not they. Platinum would end up making Transformers Devastation on PlayStation 4 and I think Xbox One, but that's a completely different dev team. The Cybertron series was made by New Moon Studios, and I just think that they're kind of underrated. Like people, I think a lot of Transformers fans probably know about them and play them, but outside of that, I mean, I'm not the biggest Transformers fan ever. Like that's not really my jam, but I still really enjoyed them because there's something so fun about getting into a gunfight against other Transformers and being able to seamlessly transition in and out of your transformation. And then the second game lets you play with Dinobots. So you can transform into a fucking mechanized dinosaur, a T-Rex, and breathe fire. Like, who doesn't want to do that? That sounds
Nice.
freaking awesome. So
That is kind of awesome.
I
play the
bet
Transformers Cybertron series. It's freaking awesome.
I bet you were very, very disappointed when Reactive was cancelled.
I don't even know what that is.
Transformers Reactive. You did
That one. Yeah, yeah,
Transformers
yeah. I
Reactive.
actually
Yeah.
haven't seen a lot about that because, like I said, I'm not even that big of a Transformers person. So
It looked
yeah, I
very
don't even know.
similar to the Cybertron games. It looked very, very, very similar to it.
Did
Like
it?
they were going back to it. Yeah.
We'll have to
But
look into that.
after like a couple of years of development, they've canned it now, unfortunately.
Oh, that sucks. Because
Really,
I would, if
really
there was a
big
third
shame.
one or a spiritual successor, because Devastation was like really good, but it was very different. It was Platinum Games. It was way more like action melee focused, and it was way more off the wall, over the top, and it was great for that. But the Cybertron series was way more grounded and focused a lot on the shooting aspect rather than the bombastic comic style that Devastation would end up doing. So there's place for both of them, but I do wish that there was like a Cybertron 3 or something akin to it because you don't really see that anymore.
Hmm.
All right. Now,
Shame.
for our last round here, we'll go ahead and finish up our list. Gabe, you can start us off with your last game.
So Split Second was a racing game. Interestingly enough, published by Disney Interactive before they shut down. Um, and basically, it was just a standard racing game, but there were instances where you could affect the track, whether that is through destroying other vehicles, thus kind of, you know, shifting your position, or just flat out, you could, in one map, you could literally cause a plane crash. Um, it is, again, one of those things where I don't know how well it performed, but it's more or less like the surprise of, oh, Disney had a hand in this. Okay. Um, it is something that I'd like to see more of because I just kind of liked I'm not a huge racing game person, but it was a fun game because of the chaotic moments. But really, it's just a fun game of like, oh, if you like racing games, you'll probably like this. It's has like the kind of like standard high octane type of vehicle, like combination of vehicle combat and racing, and you could just witness insanity unfold.
Trying to think of another game where that kind of stuff happens and I just can't, which is
Yeah,
I see why it's in your list because
yeah,
no, the closest thing I can think of is like Mario because I don't like racing games, but I enjoy doing that and like messing people up and sometimes
right.
the map does stuff, but like that's about the max. So
Yeah,
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 Interesting stuff.
very
yeah.
different. When did it come
All right,
out?
Nicole. Oh,
Uh,
Before I
I
start.
yeah, yeah. When did that? Like split second. I guess game because it registers a movie. It came out in 2010.
Oh wow. Okay, I see how I could have missed it then. Because if it was newer, then
Yeah.
I feel like I would have not missed that.
God,
Like sounds like
2010
a
was 15 years ago. God, I'm old.
Yep.
disgusting. Don't remind me. Um,
Yep. Yep.
wow. So on my list, the thing I say for last is the most unique one I think on the list in terms of not being an indie, and that is Prey, specifically 2017's Prey.
Yeah, I
Um,
figured.
yeah, yeah. So the reason it's on my list is because I'm an Arcane girly. And we talked the other week about Deus Ex last week about it not being around really anymore, being a dead franchise. And Prey for me is like as close as I'm ever gonna get to having that back. But now that's dead too, basically. So whatever. Um, Arcane has had a rough few years. They had Prey and they had Deathloop and now Redfall. Deathloop was great. Underrated
Mhm.
time looping game. I loved it. Not for everyone. That could also be an underrated one, but I wanted to prioritize Prey out of the two here.
Right.
Prey was a game where they got screwed over, in my opinion. So Bethesda owns the rights to own the rights to Prey. So they were like, I think, I don't know entirely the story, but from what I know, from what I've heard, is that Arcane was in the process of working on other stuff, and Bethesda went, "Hey, we have the rights to this game title. We need to slap this title onto a game. If not, we're going to lose the rights to it. So you're now calling your game Prey." So what they did was they essentially alienated an entire community of people who loved the original Prey game that the title was from, and slapped it on a new game that had no relevance except there's some alien stuff going on
Yeah.
in the new version, and that's it. There was absolutely no relation at all. So immediately out of the gate, Bethesda has given Arcane, they've shot them in the foot. They're already struggling with a good game coming out. it's
And
it's great. Mm?
and it could be wrong, but didn't they like actually have plans for a like Prey 2 that were canceled for this 2017?
I think you just
Don't
broken her.
Yeah, don't remind me. Don't remind me. Don't remind me. Yes, they did. They had the original Prey had a sequel that was planned to come out. I think they had a trailer and everything.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it got canned. Bethesda took it. Everyone was like, "Yay, they're going to save it." No, they didn't. So, unfortunately,
Yeah.
Prey, which is an amazing game, the new one, the 2017 one, is an
Mhm.
amazing game, but unfortunately, it came out of the gate with like the worst way possible. So, it's an incredible game. The thing that makes it so good is that it's a first person shooter immersive sim. So the immersive sim stuff is very Deus Ex. I live for immersive sim games. You get to go around the space station for the entire game anywhere you want, doing anything. You can affect whatever you want. The RPG type mechanics of it are great. There are some great role playing moments. You get to make a lot of great decisions. There are some crazy side stories, and the main plot line is great. The ending is great. And on top of that, actually, so there's the Moon Crash expansion DLC situation. I think it's like its own thing, and that is an incredible add-on of Prey that kind of that takes the idea of Prey and drags it out. Moon Crash is you're playing, I think, is about 5 different people. You do one playthrough where you're someone on the moon trying to escape. You do a run through with all the Prey mechanics that you've developed so far, but with different people. You go through once, you escape one way, and then on your second run, you're playing as someone else somewhere else on the moon. They've got to escape a different way because the first way has now been eliminated because you've escaped via that. And you've got to go through and do one long run, helping everyone, portraying each person, getting them off the station. And that is, it's I think that such love and devotion went into Prey's story, it went into Prey's level design. The whole world is so amazing and feels so lived in. And it's the immersion is phenomenal. But because of what happened with Prey, with the original being binned off in honor of this, it affected it so poorly. And I think that after Dishonored, the hype kind of died down. So this is a game I don't think did that well. I feel like Arcane's been like, struggling in the water, trying to stay afloat for ages. And despite them making good things, people just aren't coming to them anymore. And Redfall's just like help killing them slowly. So please let Blade be good. There we go.
Fair
I
enough.
forgot they were making that.
Yep.
Not gonna lie, forgot they were making that.
Yeah,
Praying it's
well,
good. Another vampire game. Let's see if
Isn't
they
there a
do this one
movie?
Yeah.
better.
Isn't there a film coming out as well for Blade?
I thought that was
Eh,
I
the
think
new
it got
Deadpool.
stopped because it had Mahershala Ali as the lead.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think something happened to it. We'll have to look into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
well, I guess
Sam, your
I'll go
last
next.
one,
Yep.
hit me with it.
Right. So this
The
one
big
I
one.
hold very, very near and dear to my heart. I bought this about
Hmm.
4 or 5, 6 times on different systems, and it's Rockstar's best game they've ever made, which is Bully.
That is
Bully's
a
incredible.
huge statement, by the way.
I
Yay!
personally think Bully is the best one that they've ever made.
We
I
talked
think it's
about this
got
the
the
other day
best.
as
Yeah,
well.
it's just
Dead games.
I'm trying not to look at it from like a nostalgia point of view, so I'll try my best with it. But basically, in Bully, you play as a 15-year-old kid called Jimmy Hopkins, and you are thrown into this school by your mother while she goes on a honeymoon with her sixth husband, I think, that she's had. Anyway, but it's basically like a slice of like American. I mean, obviously, Ashton, Gabe, you guys are American, so you can call me out if it's not a representative of what American high school's like. But um, you basically act as like this guy who is trying to stop the bullying. He's not actually bullying Jack Thompson, you fucking moron. Um, you basically, it's a fighting brawling simulator, kind of akin to what the Warriors was when they released the Warriors, which is also another underrated Rockstar game. But in Bully, for me, it kind of goes back to what I said about Sleeping Dogs. It's the charm of the world. Every single one of these NPCs has a name. Every single one of them. Right at the very end of the game, you get this yearbook, and every single one of the students has a name. You can take a picture of them. They go into the yearbook. They didn't have to do that. Every single one of the NPCs has their own little unique design or unique personality. The nerds, especially, like all of them have their own little distinct personalities. The same with the preps as well. Yes, you could probably say that it's a very small game, and it is a small game because the map size, I think, is about a quarter of San Andreas's, which is ridiculous. But the thing is with Bully is it's a charm, and I think that Rockstar now, who is shark card hungry and money hungry and GTA Definitive Edition obsessed and please buy our ports because we're too lazy to make remakes, I think that that kind of represents Rockstar when they were at their best. They were able to
100%.
take things and make fun of them, kind of like what Trey Parker and Matt Stone have done with South Park. Take things, make fun of it, but also tell an interesting story as well. There's obviously flaws with it, but out of all of Rockstar's library, the one thing that I feel like sticks out the most is obviously GTA. Red Dead is also another one. And you can maybe say Max Payne, even though that Remedy technically make it. Rockstar logo still slapped on there, so it's still associated with them. But Bully's always been one that is always kind of like left to the wayside a little bit. And I feel like that thankfully a lot more people are picking up on Bully
Hmm.
and kind of similar to Sleeping Dogs and Titanfall. I'm really annoyed that there's rumors of Bully 2 cancelled. It breaks my
Yeah.
heart. It breaks
Yeah.
my heart. And when I put it on the list, I was trying to think to myself, like, is there one specific reason why I think it's underrated without thinking of nostalgia? And I couldn't think of one specific thing, but there must have been a reason why I bought this game about 6 times on different systems. The Wii, PS2, Xbox 360, PC, PS4. I bought it on a bunch of different ones. I played on on all of them. There
Yeah.
I
must be a
mean,
reason why.
my specific reasoning for you that I'd give for Bully is simply the fact that it's such a different experience. GTA and Red Dead, that those are what Rockstar's known for. It's bizarre to have them do something in a school where there's bullying going on and you're trying to sort that shit out. It's
Yeah.
it's so different. It's such a fun, unique idea, and it's not being
But
explored more because it didn't make loads of money.
But the thing is, the mechanics from Bully are being implemented into the newer games. Red
Yeah,
Dead 2 had
yeah,
the antagonize and greet option. That was first introduced in Bully. So they're clearly
yeah.
taking inspiration from Bully and implementing it into their new games. And yeah, I'd probably say that this it is something different. It's something different that's they've tried something new with it. It's a T rate. I think it was T rated game as opposed to GTA and Red Dead being M rated.
Hmm.
Mm,
So it was something different. It was something that was new, something that was fresh instead of just here's a gun, you're a criminal, go and kill people and run
yep.
people over.
That's the thing. That's their
Um,
thing to always. Their through
yeah,
line is that they're always criminals and they're always shooting people, and it's
yeah.
Bully is different.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
And yeah, there must have been, like I said, there must have been like an actual reason, like
Mm,
one overarching reason why I bought the game so many times.
yeah.
Um, and the community is massive. Like there's a lot of people, like all the voice actors who voiced the game about 20 years ago. They still keep in touch with the community.
Yeah.
It's still alive. It's just that kind of similar to what we've been talking about already with all these games, especially the bigger budget ones like Sleeping Dogs, Mirror's Edge, Prey as well. They haven't sold well. And I think that's the biggest factor. If it doesn't sell well, they're not going to make another one. Simple
Yeah.
as, I'm
Yeah.
afraid.
Alan Wake
Unfortunately,
didn't
Yeah.
that's
sell
just
well, and it came back, so maybe.
they were smart about that because they made
Yeah.
different franchises, and
Yeah.
then once they've made these successful franchises, then that was the time to
I
make the
would
second
love for
one.
them to incorporate a bully storyline into the new GTA and use that as its like backdoor reintroduction to the
Yeah,
bully franchise. That'd be
but they won't.
amazing. But
They
they
won't
won't.
do that. No.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Buy
they
our shark
won't.
cards.
Yeah.
No,
Oh.
Yeah.
probably not.
Ashton, you got one more, right?
Yeah, it's also a series, or it's a game that we probably won't see in the States again, or at least if we do, it'll be a shock to me. And that is a PS2 game called Dokapon Kingdom. That is It is an incredible game. It was published by Atlas, so there is a big name attached to it. It wasn't developed by them, so it's not a Persona situation, but it was published by them. It was developed by Sting, who just does a bunch of different things like all over the place. But Dokapon Kingdom is essentially Mario Party and a JRPG put into one game. It
What?
is
Sorry?
incredible. Oh,
Where
and
can I
also
buy it?
Monopoly. And
Where
also
can I buy
Monopoly.
it?
So, first, let me go ahead and say, it started out on PS2 and Wii. It stayed on there for decades, and now the easiest way you can get a hold of it is they did do a port or a remaster on Switch, called I think it was called Dokapon Kingdom Connect. So you can now play Dokapon Kingdom online on the Switch online with other people, which is really cool because otherwise you'd have to either have play couch co-op on Dokapon or through emulators. There's ways that you can connect online. But Dokapon Kingdom, it is one of the most interesting games that kind of comes in and out of my top 10 games of all time because I had a lot of, I've sunk, oh God, I can't even tell you how many hundreds of hours into it playing with my best friend TJ, and it really was one of those games that helped us bond. But the game cheats, and it doesn't shy about it. It's not even like the Mario Party kind of cheating. It's like outright, it will pick somebody and say, "You are now fucked." This other person is going to get every roll perfectly for like the next 10 rounds, and then it will switch off and find somebody else to fuck with. Like it is incredible, especially the AI, the decisions that it can make are asinine and incredible, but it's so interesting. So you start off the game and there is a story mode. And the whole idea is that the princess has been kidnapped, generic, and you have to go save her from the king. And if you do, then he will give you her as marriage, and you can also like get your own like castle and whatever. So you pick your class. You can be a thief, you can be a mage, or you can be a fighter, and that will determine a bunch of things like your stat growth and all that stuff. And then you're put on a party board and you roll. You do like it's like a life wheel. Like instead of dice, you like rolling like the wheel you spin in the game of life, the board game. And you move around the map. You can go to an item space to get new weapons, armor. There's shops around the place. There's monsters you can go fight. You can level up. You're increasing your stats. You're getting stronger. You're getting more powerful. And you can fight each other as well. And that can give you certain bonuses, or if you feel like there's not really a lot of benefit to you killing somebody, well, you can just like draw on their face or change their name to say to like butt doo doo head, whatever you want to do. You can just do all that. And then on top of that, the towns in the game will get taken over by a big monster, essentially like a mini boss. And if you go kill that, you then now own that town. Like you gain possession of it, kind of like Monopoly, and it's worth a value. So you're also building up like your own property values in this game about art, like about JRPG fighting and also Mario Party. And it's incredible. There's 3 acts you go through, you fight the big final boss guy, you go to the next act, you do it again. You can find different classes out in the world. You can become like a robot knight. You can become a hero, which is like one of the best classes in the game. You can become an acrobat, which is the actual best class in the game because it like dodges every attack ever. There's just so much to it that is like the weirdest amalgamation of stuff that you can imagine put into a game, and it somehow works. Like it's somehow a blast because there's so much that you can like sink into. And it was an interesting experience when I played it because there's not a lot of hard, strong information about the game online, like how certain things function. And so a lot of it, really, when I was playing it with TJ, we were like doing experiments to figure out if we could see how the game ticks, if we could figure out how XYZ worked, because the information wasn't available online, which felt a lot like how you feel when you were like a really small child before the internet was like exploded to what it is now. And somebody will tell you that if you go where the SS Ann is in Pokemon Red and you find a way to get to the side, there's a truck and you'll find you there. And it's like those kind of things that you will hear in school, you go and try to do, it might work, it might not work, but it's all hearsay. Like you're discovering things in the game as you play rather than just looking up the answer online because it's not available. And so it really took me back to that time of like, okay, dude, let's go here and let's see if this can do this, or let's go see, if I hit this option, will the AI do this in response? Can we figure this out? Like, it was really really cool, and it's just it is definitely a game that will make you hate your friends just like Mario
Hmm.
Party. It is not different in that sense, but it is just a whole lot of fun because the game really will like to pick on somebody, and it'll switch around who it decides to pick on. There's a comeback mechanic called I think it's called Devil something. I can't remember now. Dark Devil, whatever, doesn't matter. But essentially, it allows you if you're like in last place you get this little bat that hangs out above your head. And if you go to a certain spot on the map, you'll turn into like this devil that has the strongest weapons in the game. And you can go kill all of your like opponent enemies, like the other players. You can take all their stuff, you can level up, and then, you can take over their town with like spawn a new monster there for you so you can kind of like get yourself back in the game. But it's one of those games where if you are strong enough and you play the game right and you get the right rolls, the right setup, you can kill that devil, even though it's like built to be impossible to kill. So there's just so much to go in there. Not enough people have played it. It doesn't perform well enough in the States for us to get much. There was a DS sequel that came out that got middling reviews, and we outside of this re-release on Switch, there have been other Dokapon games that have come out since then, but they haven't come over to the States. They've only been in Japan. So I'm kind of sitting here only playing Dokapon Kingdom over and over, and I really like to play, some of the other games that came out later. I'd like to play they have a Switch version, like a completely new Switch game out right now, but it's only playable in Japan. So,
Mhm.
and we're probably not going to get it in the States anytime soon.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the ones that I think is so severely underrated because it's underplayed. It got underrated reviews at the time because of the way that it works, and I don't think people really appreciated how cool it was at the time, because it's not Mario Party, but like it's not necessarily fully trying to be. It's got so much other stuff going on with it, and we probably won't see a lot of it because unless Dokapon Kingdom Connect sells like hotcakes, I'm not sure that Alice will have a whole lot of incentive to bring it to the States again anytime soon. So,
Yeah.
but Dokapon Kingdom, if you guys want a good party game to play with your friends, something that's just a little goofy, crazy off the wall, does take a while, but maybe give it a shot because I think it's really unique and really cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
Awesome.
fair. My camera is telling me I have to change the battery.
My camera just froze. This is going well for us.
Oh, wow.
And
All
now
right.
mine
Good thing
is
it all
crashing.
happened at the end. All happened.
Thank
Yeah,
God.
my Zoom is crashing all at once now. What's going on?
And
By
there
the
she goes.
way,
Oh,
Sam, the
I'm back.
follow
That's
up,
the wrong camera.
as far as I'm aware, I did some digging while we were talking and stuff, and I think the Blade movie is indefinitely delayed at this point. It's
Ah,
made like no
well,
progress. So it's supposed to come out this year, and that didn't happen. So
somebody say development hell.
yeah, production hell, whatever you want to call it. Mahershala
God.
Ali is off doing other movies with the same director that left the show, that left the movie. So I don't know.
Oh, right. Okay.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Director and the
But yeah,
lead star. Wow.
so
Oh,
we'll
well.
see. We'll see. I think Mahershala Ali's still on the movie. It's just, it's not moving forward at
He's
all
just
right
waiting for
now.
the call. Just waiting for the call.
Yeah, exactly. So that has been our most anticipated games as of right now. Obviously, there's a lot of different games we could put on this list.
You said anticipated, you
I
mean
mean,
underrated.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah, underrated, underrated. I mean, I anticipate some people are going to be playing these
I
goddamn
forgot,
games
I
as
forgot
we
Yeah.
which
talk
episode
about
we were
them.
on then.
I just added like so many things to my list, being like, right, go play that now, go play that now. So
I feel like I
good
could
stuff.
add another like 10 games to this list easily
Yeah.
and like
Oh, definitely.
talk about them
Definitely.
all, but unfortunately, we
Yeah.
just do not have that kind of time.
No.
Is there anything else y'all want to go ahead and wrap up before we wrap up this episode?
I'm good.
Yeah. I'm
All
fine.
right.
No.
This...
Nothing.
Nope.
Nope.
Move on, sir. This has been
No.
the Smash Jump podcast. Let's go ahead and plug in the Patreon. Well, Gabe's kind of preoccupied.
Yeah.
Time to plug.
We're back. We're back.
You'll
Yep,
go ahead and
yep.
plug that Patreon so people can support independent media.
Yeah, of course. So sign up for our Patreon. You get early access to this podcast as well as an extra 30 or so minutes of us talking and rambling and stuff.
A nice little after
Yeah.
show.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
It's gonna be fun. We're gonna do that right now. So if you want to see
Yes.
the rest of that,
Yep.
I know at least Ted's gonna want to stick around for that. So I'll see you there, buddy.
Yep.
And
Yep,
Nicole, if you want to
exactly.
go ahead and plug your Stargate
Oh,
podcast.
thank you. Yes, I've got
Yeah.
Stargate podcast. We're on a break for a month. So anybody who joined in the last week, like Ben, big mistake. But yeah, we're doing a podcast. We're on season 7 of Stargate SG1. We're going through the entire show. We talk about all the fun facts, behind the scenes moments, and we've had a couple actors on who are on the show. So yeah, check it out. It's the Wormhole Extremists. So wormhole and then the letter X and then tremists, which is weird, based on one of the episode titles. So yeah, check us out. We're on YouTube.
Mhm.
All right, and Sam, you got a good YouTube that we should be checking out too, right?
Yeah, whenever I upload next. Yeah, but it's Game
Eh.
Opinions. So Gamer GAMER hyphen PINION. Reviews talking about stuff. Whenever I get chance. What I've actually been doing is I've been working on like about 4 different scripts for videos. Speaking of Titanfall, I decided I'm gonna do like an hour-long video about the campaign, which is gonna be a massive, massive undertaking. So look out for
Hell
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, whenever I get some free time, I'll promise I'll come back to it at some point.
Yep.
But yeah, that's
Yep,
me.
of course. And then I've got Ashton Lavelle YT. You can find me on YouTube. Retrospectives, deep dives of games, video essays, that kind of thing. 2 videos right now. One of playing every PlayStation launch game, PS1, and then one for my experience with Mass Effect Andromeda. It
I
was
really
certainly
enjoyed that
something.
one. I watched the whole thing. That was actually it was so good. I
That was a
really
good one.
enjoyed that. So
I
definitely
definitely
check it
appreciate
out.
that. I definitely appreciate that. I hope anyone else that watches it likes it too. And then I've got my I'm working on, similar to Sam, got a couple stuff in the background. I'm working on 2 videos, but the one I'm most excited about is the playing every Final Fantasy game. I'm writing the script for Final Fantasy 1 right now and gathering footage, so I'm excited to talk about that and then move on to the next game. But
Right.
that has been the Smash Up Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the Smash Up YouTube channel right here. Just go right down below and click the button. Go ahead and comment down below your favorite underrated games. And if any of the games we talked about here on this episode sound like something that you're going to go ahead and give a try, we hope that you do. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.